Hello everyone, who's time for my 3x3 anime list. Yeah, the ultimate 3 best animes times 3 animes, which makes 9 animes. But okay, so I got the inspiration from Trash Taste. Saw it a few months ago, whatever, that video with the 3x, and you know, I like that idea. I like the idea of doing the 3x3 because, like, a top 10 is always like, you know, you do a top 10 list, you kind of be like, this is like my favorite anime, but then it's like, I want to watch a comedy anime today, right? Or I want to watch something else, or I want to do, etc. Right? So I feel hard saying what is the best anime or best character or whatever, right? Because it's kind of depending on what, it's better depending on, I feel, on, like, you know, your sense of the mode or whatever. And also, it's kind of like, oh, this is the best shonen anime, this is the best shojou anime, and so on, right? And so forth. But anyway, let's show the list then. So I did thumbnail, of course, you can see the thumbnail, right? Made a little bit half-ass, throw in the list, baby. There we go. This is my, and you know, it's not real taste. It's not some bullshit taste where someone is like, Attack on Titan, Demon Slayer, no, or something pretentious. Is like, I love those 3x3 or whatever people are. My top 10 animes, and it's only like the most pretentious animes. Oh, these are the most, like, Evangelion, Elfen Lied, like monsters, and it's only those animes. But anyway, yeah, my 3 times 3 animes. So, this is the list, of course, the ultimate anime list. Obviously, Konosuba is a big anime for me, right? Obviously, gonna be in there, and obviously have a lot of, you know, Konosuba stuff and so on, right? Gonna have my Aqua Goddess, right? I was thinking of like Dragon Ball and stuff like that, right? But I don't know. My hard decision before I started talking about the top list here was actually not having Sailor Moon in the list. Yeah, I was like, oh god, but Sailor Moon. But I was thinking for a long time about either Sailor Moon or Tenchi Muyo, and I kind of went for that. As I wrote in the description, I kind of went for the OG WAIFU, which is the OG best girl, right? So Makoto is my OG best girl, but then of course Ryoko is in Tenchi Muyo, and that's the ultimate harem anime. So I was like, no, that is the ultimate. I was like, no, that is the ultimate best girl. So one thing before I started, so I go to my live stream, but I don't know, move the camera a little bit like that, maybe. Yeah, that's better, right? Make it a little bigger. Come on, camera. Immediately it's like, no. How about no? Okay, like that. And then, yes, save it. Yes, let's make it big. Okay. Yeah, it's nice. You can see some beautiful face. So, my favorite main anime, right, is Kaiji. Yeah. Kaiji, that's my number 1, right? That's why it's in the middle, like kind of straight up there. Kaiji is this kind of anime where it's just like, oh man, it's such a good. I hope everyone's seen Kaiji. Kaiji Ultimate Survivor is a gambling, psychological anime where you focus on. Kaiji is about like, how do I win this game? So it's obviously it's like game theory. I don't mean gaming as in, but game theory, like how to win. Game theory is like von Neumann. So it's stuff like Stag Hunt, Prisoner's Dilemma. Prisoner's Dilemma, I believe, have 2 people being interrogated, right? And it's like there's 4 different choices or 4 different options that can happen. They either blame each other, there's one option. One is silent, and the other blames him, or vice versa, the XOR solution, or they're both silent, right? So like 4 different options. And that's Prisoner's Dilemma. You have 4 different outcomes and different years and so on, the ultimate system and so on. So I really like that stuff. I like market theory, right? I like stuff like that kind of mathematical game theory stuff, which is not the same thing as like a game design, whatever, which I also enjoy, of course. But game theory is more about the sociology, the mind game, right? And also generally trying to like calculate what is like the best solution people can do in a given situation, so on, right? And that is basically Kaiji. Like, this is basically Kaiji. Kaiji is an anime where it's all about, okay, I'm gonna play like, I mean, I just love how Kaiji takes these, so they're gambling different games about money, right? And it takes these like very simple games, mostly in Kaiji, very straightforward games. So the reason I think Kaiji is so good, because immediately it starts with Kaiji playing Janken cards, right? So basically rock, paper, scissors, and that to me is just such a good thing, because it's a very simple game. We can all understand how, you know, rock, rock beats scissor, paper beats rock, right, and so on. We all understand how rock, paper, scissors works. It's a very, very simple game, right? And then there's like, 10 episodes about that, basically. Yeah, it's like an amazing drama about, should I play the rock or the scissor card, right? And it's like, oh my god, it's like they're making this very, very simplistic game to be this amazing, like, Sava, right? It's just a good anime because that's, I feel, mostly what CAD is. It takes very, very simplistic game concepts and it makes them be incredibly tense, right? So, not to spoil the whole anime scene, but it's also like, should I go forward or push down a guy? But it's very binary, right? It's like 0-1. It's very, very binary. They have the one when he plays the die game, you just throw a dice. Also very simplistic, right? Should I do this betting and so on? So it's a lot of like basic games. And then what Kadi does, of course, as anime, is that it puts this like massive, if I win this game, I'm not gonna die, right? Or like it's like I have a death or alive, right? It's like, if I lose, I'm gonna lose all my money and basically be, killed, right? Or these things and so on. So that's Kadi is making like this super drama, tense, famous for its like Sava depressional scenes, right? About these very, in a sense, simplistic things, and that's why I think it's so good. And then otherwise, Kadi is interesting because it really is like a very human anime, where the main character, Kadi, then of course, is an actual just a guy that wants to make money. He's kind of smart, not the best guy, but it's pretty fair. He's like somewhat a good guy, but not really. So Kanji could be the most human main character ever, too, like an actual person, right? He's trying to kind of like get his money back and in debt and so on, and a lot of bad stuff happens to him, right? So Kanji, I think, is like the greatest anime ever. And before I go to all the animes, I can say that too, that of course Akagi is also an amazing anime. I almost put Akagi on this list too. I was like, man, Akagi, guys, that's also an amazing anime. So Akagi is from the same author, and they only play Mahjong instead, which is an amazing anime too, and manga. So one incredible, very similar then, right? The pressure of playing Mahjong and different strategies and solutions and and so on. Very, very good anime. But I think Kaji is, I think Kaji is a lot better actually. I think Akagi is like a 9 out of 10 anime, but Kaji is like a 20 out of 10. So I think that's a lot better actually, because the thing with Akagi is that they only play Mahjong. It's a really good game, and I play Mahjong competitively. It's a really good game, but it has all this, bluffing and lying and all that, typical poker stuff and so on, right? But the thing is that Kaji, I think, is much more interesting because they keep changing the game, right? So in Kaji, he plays another game like every 5th to 10 episode, right? And then they get a new game, and there's like a new psychology, a new mind game per game. Where in Akagi, it's like they only play Mahjong. And it's still amazing, but I mean, obviously, it's kind of the same general mind game, so the same general concept, right? Kind of, it doesn't matter how much they play, right? So I think that's a little weaker. It's kind of actually one way an anime or manga I really like, is actually Yu-Gi-Oh! And I don't know, I mean, yeah, I really like Yu-Gi-Oh! In the beginning. Haven't seen the latest like 3-4 versions of it, but the thing is that it kind of reminds me of Yu-Gi-Oh! So if you haven't seen the actual Yu-Gi-Oh! Not the one where they play the card game. I have all the manga of the first like 40 volumes. So in the first, I believe it's the first 6 or 7 volumes of the manga, which I have in my room over there, is they're basically kind of like Kaji, right? Yugi is playing different games. He's playing different games for life and death, for money, and also for murdering and serial kills. It's a crazy freaking manga. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is so brutal actually in the beginning. It's much more brutal in the beginning of Yu-Gi-Oh! Than it is later. It is crazy brutal the first about 6-7 volumes. But anyway, Yu-Gi-Oh! Well, I do like the actual card game. It's a great card game, because very big hit, right? I do actually enjoy Yu-Gi-Oh! The most in the beginning. Kind of like Kadi, he plays a different game every chapter, every book, right? Very similar. But anyway, let's go on there. So Kadi, the big hit there. My favorite anime. In the middle, baby, in the middle. The Sava face. Then we can just go to the other seinen stuff then. Keep the taste going here. One Outs. Very similar anime. I think it's better than Akagi. So obviously, I would say that's kind of my main. If the anime, my main genre, right? My main genre. So I need to have at least 2 of these animes here. Is the gambling psychological animes. So One Out is about baseball, and I do like sport animes, and I think that One Out is the best sport anime out there, even though it's very different than other sport animes. It's not that much. It's not so much about like, oh, I'm shonen, I'm gonna fight and level up. It's more like, oh, I'm gonna cheat and win the game. So Kaiji does cheat a bit too. Akagi actually cheats a lot actually. But if the one guy does a lot of cheating, he's Tokichi in One Out. And also I do love IC21, right? It's almost in the list too. And he's kind of similar to Hiruma in the captain in Ice. But so they're playing baseball, and I like, again here, I like the simplicity of this anime, right? Because the main character, he can either throw a fastball or a slow ball. There's a very binary, either, you know, fast or slow, right? He can't do a knuckle, he can't do all this other tornado pitch or whatever. He's doing a very, very basic baseball throw. But of course his skill is that he always knows if he should throw the fast or the slow ball, right? So it's all again about that psychology. It's like, oh, this guy, he thinks that I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to throw the slow ball. It's all about that, right? But one thing that I feel that One Out does even better than Kaiji, even in a similar genre, is that he's a master of like manipulating his opponent in another way. So he's like, I'm gonna tell my opponent that I could read his tell, right? And then even if he doesn't have a tell, so now he thinks it's a tell. So I went into his mind, right? So it's a lot of that stuff in One Out, how he kind of like, oh, they're listening into us. Oh, I'm gonna like lie to my allies to make them confused, and even more than confuse the other guys. So for example, in baseball, right, you used to do the thing with the signs, right? To who you gonna throw and so on, right? And he's like, I'm gonna look at that sign and I'm gonna pretend to follow that, and I do something else, and even then, of course, trick my own teammates and so on, right? So that is wonderful, truly wonderful in One Out, how he's manipulating everyone, including his own teammates, constantly, yeah. But that's why I think in One Outs it really works so well too, because he's like, I'm gonna lie to everyone, even my own guys, and then they are really gonna believe in it, because they're gonna act, of course, as I intended, right? Because they're gonna be shocked when I betray them as well, right? So it's a really interesting, again, then psychological gambling anime with some sport elements. But but I think mostly because you're kind of following a bad guy. I think that's kind of interesting too. He isn't really like a really evil guy, right? But he's kind of an anti-hero, you know, kind of neutral kind of guy. Mostly actually somewhat of a bad guy in some of the scenes, and that I think is interesting too. I need more animes where you actually follow the bad guy, like, you know. Anyway, let's go on then. Freaking mature seinen anime. I could keep going on the same level yet. Golden Kamuy, okay? Freaking masterpiece. End the video. No, but Golden Kamuy, man, the anime is good. Like, and there's another anime that had the first year of Golden Kamuy, the same year, which of course is A Place for the Universe, which I almost had in the list too. That anime, that he has some good, really good animes, and yeah, it's like I think it's a lot better. These are both very good, but man, Golden Kamuy, it's hard to explain the anime. Because it's kind of like everything. It's kind of like, it has the comedy, it has that, crazy action, it has all these sociopaths and psychopaths, it has the weird drama and the betrayal, and it's like an anime that's everything. It's an anime that's like every genre. It's like, even romance. It's like, it's an anime that has like, oh, it's everywhere, it's crazy. So, I mean, the main premise is at Hokkaido, and then later on even Cold and Sakhalin. And they're trying to capture these like serial killers or whatever they are, like murderers or sociopaths, that all has a tattoo map, right, to this like Ainu treasure island, being another people that live in Hokkaido, right, not Japanese people, and they're getting gold. But the thing is that with Golden Kamuy, that every character, every murderer, every serial killer is so interesting character. They're so crazy. They have these like really good backstories. And one thing I really love with Golden Kamuy is that every bad guy is very competent. It's always like, I don't want to spoil it here, right? But they have so many interesting bad guys, and they're all very, very good at what they actually are doing. So it's never that you feel that the good characters win because of plot armor, right? Because you all hate freaking plot armor, like One Piece or whatever. Yeah, we always have that freaking plot armor, right? But in Golden Kamuy, it's a lot like, no, these bad guys actually do the best they can, right? They actually do the best they in their possibilities to defeat the good guys, right? Or other bad guys. One thing that makes Golden Kamuy work, then even though the good guys are obviously that spoil it too much here, but they're obviously, like I say, fewer in numbers and have less manpower and so on. It's because there are many factions, right, in Golden Kamuy. They're like 4 or 5 different bad guys, and they're all fighting about the gold and so on. But that's why the anime is so interesting, because all the dynamic between them, right, and then good characters are trying to like play all the sides, and then the bad guys are teaming up, and then they're betraying each other and so on. But everything makes sense in the anime. It's so believable. The actual drama and the storytelling and the twists and turns. And Ogata, of course, being best character. That's my best boy, man, Ken Yasuda. It's really amazing. But all that being said, I'm talking about the drama here, and the characters, and the backstories, and all the good stuff. It also has this, like, absurd comedy. Like, that's this so good with Golden Kamuy. It also has this, like, insane comedy scenes where you're like, what is happening? And it's just so funny. It's just crazily weird anime. Like, they're having this, like, oh, people getting killed left and right. And then they're finding like some utter meat and eat it, and they're like, oh yeah, let's have some naked sumo wrestling, everyone! And it goes all like yaoi or something, and you're like, what's happening? This is weird. This episode, when my favorite episode is when they meet the guy that is that likes to take people's skin, right, and make suits of it. Yeah, that guy. And he has this like big bear suit, and then he chases after him into like a sort of mine shot, dressed up in this bear suit, and has this elephant thing and so on. It's so weird. And sometimes the anime just completely goes into this really weird comedy. At first, I have to say that, I mean, I found it funny too, but I'm like, man, this is weird. But after you see maybe like 10 or so episodes, you kind of get used to this like super strange comedy that honestly I almost never seen any other anime. I mean, like, man, maybe have some really weird scenes. But that's why it's so perfect, because it had all this drama and tension and badass characters and a lot of, you know, murder and so on. But suddenly it's like, oh no, everyone's kind of like, I don't know, they're gonna go on this sea trip, and the guy's like, oh yeah, I got stabbed by a stingray. Oh, and they're like, what's happening? Like, why is this a scene for? Oh man, like when they have to use the unko or the pee. Oh man, that is so weird. It has everything for it. It's fantastic anime, truly fantastic anime. Anyway, let's go on. I can end with the last, I guess, arguably seinen show here then. And that of course is Grand Teacher Onizuka. Holy shit, man. I was doing this list, and I was looking at some old animes, because I'm an old man, right? I don't want to say... This is not... And I'll say the thing. Is Gyakkyou my favorite anime? Oh, actually, I really do that. I do really love Gyakkyou. But I mean, it's like... Is it in my top 10 animes? Probably not, honestly. But... It's one of those animes where, like, man, this anime meant a lot to me. The original Tilf, man. The original Tilf Sensei. I have the manga. I even have the early years manga. And I read the manga and watched the anime, right? And there's a lot of animes I watched back in the days when kind of Gyakkyou was out. Like Full Metal Alchemist could almost be in the list, right? And other animes that was really good. So I'm talking like early 2000 here, right? Berserk and so on, etc. Berserk I didn't include because I felt that is, of course, the first Berserk is really good and the second Berserk is just massively lacking, right? But Grand Teacher Onizuka feels one of those really, for me, iconic animes that was different, you know. It was very anime, you know what I mean? It was very Japanese, about a teacher, he was a smash, you know. I was like, oh man, this guy is awesome! So, I love Yankees, of course, you know, I love, you know, Saki and so on, right? Talking about this Somali Sega earlier today. I kind of, you know, somewhat of a Yankee, I guess, you know, obviously best girl in Dragon Ball, you know, C18 or Android 18. I always call her C, right? In Swedish it's called Cyborg 18, and so on, right? I just had my Saki shirt on me earlier and so on. So, I always like the Yankees, but the original Yankee for me, and I think for most people actually, kind of old in manga anime, is of course Badass Sensei, right? Badass Gyakkyou. About the Sensei, that basically he's like a delinquent, right? Of course, you know, a Yankee or some other, you know, kind of like, you know, bad boy, right, at school and so on. And when he grows up then, because these are early years, I have the manga, I mentioned earlier, on the manga kind of. But then, yeah, he grows up, right, it's kind of like a loser guy in his early 20s, and he's like, oh, I want to smash some hot girls, and I want to get some, you know, etchy action, I want to get some hand stuff happening, right? He meets this girl, and then she... How say it? She's like saved, I guess, from him by her sensei, and the sensei's gonna smash her instead. He's like, what? This old 40-year-old loser man is gonna smash her, not me? And then, of course, he's like, oh, I wanna be a sensei, so I can like smash him. Like, it's the premise alone. You're like, oh man, this is some good anime. That's kind of what I mean, right? Because we have a lot of ecchi animes today, right? I'm going to Tenchi Muyo and especially later, but we have a lot of ecchi animes. And but Gyakkyou, I think, was one of the first manga and animes where the whole premise is just kind of absurd. It's about a sensei trying to score with his students. I'm like, yeah. It's like, oh yeah. And then I just remember so well, I mean, I have the manga too, right? And when Murai's mom appears, he has this like, his worst student is this, delinquent boy, right? That was fighting him and so on. But then his mom appeared, and his mom is like a teenage mom. She got like pregnant, she was like 13, she's like 26 or whatever in the actual current storyline. And then of course, when this guy is like, I'm here to smash students, but MILFs also works! It's like, I just remember this so much reading that the first time, and I was like 12, reading Gyakkyou, and I was like, yeah, he's gonna try to get that MILF, oh yeah! It's like, no, but that to me was like, man, this is Japanese, this is manga, this is anime. It's about a sensei, trying to, seduce his, like, the MILFs and so on off his stool, and they could also the fellow teachers and the nurses, had to smash the nurse and so on. I was like, man, this is good shit, man. This is how anime should be, man. And today, I mean, there's so many animes and mangas, right, and so on, that has the kind of premise of trying to score, right, and ecchi stuff and so on. But I think that Gyakkyou was seriously is the first one. I think the first big one, at least I can remember. We really had a character all about the ecchi. It's all about trying to score. And his delinquent Yankee guy got blonde hair, his friends are all delinquents and so on, right? It was amazing, I think. It was truly amazing when it was new. And generally then the storyline, I haven't mentioned yet, we haven't seen it, but he's kind of like a violent teacher, right? He takes care of the bad students by beating them up and so on. Yeah, by owning them, by punching them and and so on, right? It's a really, I think, and of course the legendary scene that I think everyone that read and seen it is of course the German suplex, right? When he of course takes his principal and goes back, right? The German suplex, right? The classic scene is in all animes, like Kevin the Mission and so on. That's from Gyakkyou, right? The classic German suplexing the principal. Yeah, that's like, yeah, I don't know what principal, but yeah, Kyoto said it. That's beautiful, man. So of course Gyakkyou, quite other, I would call it, it's like shonen seinen, right? Yeah, it's like a little bit over that place, but it has some weird scenes. And one thing too, I think though, is that it definitely was kind of, it has some rough scenes, I guess, that you also not see that much today, I feel, unless it's seinen. So yeah, it's a little bit kind of our putting, and it has a lot of parodies too, I suppose, old school parodies like Doraemon as well. But it's a really good anime, and again, I think it's like the first anime where you had like the ecchi main character, trying to like, oh, I'm gonna smash all those MILFs, Yeah, I was like, oh man, this is anime interesting. It's a hen's storyline, here we go. Because I mean, today you have all this like domestic no kanyu, right? You have, Citrus. I like both animes, and I probably like Citrus the more, Citrus is like, oh, maybe I'm a lesbian and my sister is like kissing me or something. It's weird, I love Citrus. It's so trashy. It's a trashy anime. And then you have animes like Gyakkyou and so on, when it all is ecchi everywhere. But I think honestly that, yeah, Gyakkyou for me is like the first really like, this is the first anime about some really weird ecchi plotline with the main character is like, yeah, sick students and moms, yeah, like, oh yeah, it's like that's like original. I mean, picture this thing, right? You have all this like, ecchi sites today, right? And it's always like, what's the most popular search term? It's like MILF and so on, yeah. Gyakkyou was kind of that. He was like, before we had the internet, Gyakkyou was like, he was like trying to get all those labels. He was like, I'm trying to score with all these stuff that is the most searched for. He's a very, human character. While on topic then, let's talk about Tenchi Muyo then. Tenchi Muyo, freaking prepare this thing, man. Let's drop it for a bit here. Freaking my ultimate classic. My first waifu, right? Ryoko-san. Tenchi Muyo is like the OG harem anime, right? As I mentioned earlier, beginning of the video, it was like that was Sailor Moon for me. Sailor Moon, big thing for me, of course, was a kid too, right? But Tenchi Muyo was like the first harem anime, and I enjoy harem animes a lot, right? Even though I complain about it sometimes with the kind of, this one thing that they're very cliche and tropey by now, because it kind of always follows the same formula. But there are a few ones I think that have been in the recent years have been really good, like Quintuplets, right? I think it's one of the best horror animes ever. Actually, I think it's very well written. All the wives are awesome, right? I mean, even Nino is cool too, right? And when Ishika turned evil, I was like, oh, evil Ishika! Oh, she's better wife for now, man! And so on. So, horror animes are always nice. And Love Hina, though. Well, I was close putting Love Hina here. Love Hina is like this Tenchi Muyo is older than Love Hina, absolutely. But Love Hina is kind of like the first really big manga that was about harem, right? And about the main character living in this girl's, I guess, like a hostel. He's like the manager and so on. I have the whole manga course of Love Hina. Like, of course I have. Of course I have all Love Hina too, right? But Tenchi Muyo is the first one. Tenchi Muyo is about a guy, Tenchi then, that has basically like, I don't know, 20 wives. He has a lot of wives in the end list, but he has a lot of wives, right? And, but one thing I think that Tenchi Muyo did, not only is it the first harem, like literally like the first real harem, where Space Invader Loom is like the first anime about a guy that has like a crazy alien girlfriend. Yeah, so basically if you like 02 and so on, right, kind of the aggressive alien girlfriend or something like Chemical Dex or whatever, those animes, then you might want to give Loom, right? Loom is like the OG 02, right? Like a sexy alien girl being all like, you're gonna marry me, you know, that's Loom, right? But Tenchi Muyo has a similar premise that Ryoko and so on, also being aliens that want to smash Tenchi, right? But the harem is that, and there's a lot of different aliens, right? And they all wanna, you know, get with him. And the thing is that Tenchi Muyo did, I would say the first one, right, in this anime premise, is that it really had that. One thing I really like was like Love Hina. Love Hina has the more thing. One girl is cute, one girl is a sly girl, one girl is a muscular girl, right? One girl is a, you know, kind of the next. I mean, yeah, like Love Hina really had that kind of classical, how to say it, the distribution of different waifus, right? You know, like for example, the main girl, right? She's kind of the next girl, you know, the girl next door, kind of neighbor girl, you know, very pretty, kind of good at everything, right? Kind of nice mixed, you know, neighbor girl kind of feel to it, right? Where you also have this like samurai girl, you have the muscular fighting girl, right? You have the kind of the cute one, you have the crazy one, and you also have the kind of the One-shans, like the trickster, kind of the foxy one. That's like, oh, you want to do this, right? So I feel I did that too, to kind of establish the different, you know, characters, right? The different tropes, so to speak. But Tenchi Muyo even earlier, I feel, established the general feeling of what I think are the better horror anime usually, like Monster Musume and Jitsu no Watashi and those kind of horror animes. We kind of have like, oh, here's like monster girls, like alien girls, clone girl, you know, and so on, right? Tenchi Muyo had a lot of that stuff immediately. Even though being the first one, it really did establish most of these like horror tropes. So having, you know, like, oh, this thing and this thing, different aliens, dimensional stuff and so on. And also then, Tenchi Muyo had a lot of crazy stuff like Vash is the mom of Ryoko, Aika, his other, you know, main, Ryoko and Aika are his main, you know, Akane and Nagara, the main wife, I guess. And she's like his aunt or something, and then he has like his grandma, and then he has his sister. So it's like a weird, he also established all these like weird, you know, Arrow manga sensei and that stuff too. Is like, especially in the late pieces of Tenchi Muyo, that he's like his grandma comes with him, and then his grandma's like, let's have a bat together, Tenchi. And then his sister's like, no, I want a bat with him. And then they get this weird, you know, like One-chan, Arara, Ukashan, Yandere, Mamako, and so on there. So he also went for that stuff in the end, right? So it also has a lot of that in Tenchi Muyo. But again, it was very OG. It was very OG horror anime. I think without Tenchi Muyo, maybe you wouldn't have Love Hina, right? And without those two animes, you wouldn't have all these horror tropes. Because those two animes together, I think especially Tenchi Muyo, but also Love Hina, basically created like all these harem tropes, right? Like all the tropes you see today in harem, like this is, we have love comedy, right? Yeah, like all those tropes you see in the anime is basically already existed in Love Hina and Tenchi Muyo, like all of them. That's why one anime that I always had on this list is Orosuke, right? I think honestly Orosuke is like my favorite horror anime in like 10 years, because it, of course it makes fun of all the horror animes. And I like that the main character, Jiro, he wants to smash everyone. He's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna use this horror to win. But anyway, let's go on, right? That is of course Tenchi Muyo. That's we have it there, right? Original horror anime. Let's go for an obvious one then. I mentioned it earlier, of course. Konosuba, yeah. So Konosuba, best isekai, right? We all love isekai. Of course, I even have the man, you know, I like prop comedy, so of course I even have the book, and I have all my, you know, my Aqua figures. I have my poster. I have my other poster there. I have my, I have a lot. It's like my whole house. My whole house is like Konosuba stuff. No, but I have a lot of Konosuba stuff. Obviously, huge amount of Konosuba stuff. I think Konosuba is just straight up the best comedy ever, right? In my opinion. And obviously I'm right. But yeah, I think Konosuba is just the funniest anime ever. You know, just purely speaking, comedy style, it is the best thing ever. There's no other anime where I laugh so much as Konosuba. Another anime though that I almost had in the list, I do keep saying this, but another anime where if I did like an X-Teen grid, you know, with like 10 more animes, right, it would easily be in that anime, and it was very close being in this list. Is of course Kaguya-sama, Love is War, which I think is like also one of the best animes in recent years, right? Because obviously Kaguya-sama is similar to Kaji, right? It's my favorite anime. You know, could I trick you to love me? And has a similar parody also I feel to Konosuba. So it's kind of like, but I think Konosuba is funnier, in my opinion, definitely. But Kaguya has that Kaji feel to it. For me, it's like a Kaji comedy, right? Yeah. So man, that anime is probably like on my. It's definitely close to it. But as again, I like this 9 grid here, right? The 3 grid here because I didn't aim, as I mentioned, do I enjoy today Kaguya-sama more than Grand Teacher? Yeah, probably do, honestly, yeah. But I want to make an honest list. I was like, this anime, for me, as I mentioned earlier, Onizuka, could actually kind of be one of my most important animes. You know, again, yeah, that's really inspired me. Oh, I love manga anime, you know what I mean? So it's more important for me, Gyakkyou, than Kaguya-sama, definitely. So, stuff like that. But anyway, I think it's up there for me that Konosuba number 1 comedy anime, then Kaguya-sama probably number 2 honestly. But that's kind of it for Konosuba, like straight up for me. You can say a lot of stuff about it. I like the comedy, the characters, and the jokes, and everything in between too. But I think again, just purely for me, it is truly my opinion the best comedy anime ever. So if I'm just gonna rate on comedy alone, right, not in the storytelling, not in the characters or whatever, it's just a pure comedy. I think it wins hands down. I think there's no other anime where I laugh so much as to Konosuba, right? So I think that's for me, like, this is the best comedy anime I ever seen. And the movie's great and so on too, right? And the book's great and so on. But yeah, for me it's the best comedy ever. But so most of it does well though, I feel, Konosuba. Is the course of parody, right? It makes fun of all the tropes, the jokes, right? The JRPG. I do like Isekai. Obviously I've seen not every Isekai. But I think Kazuma is the best one. Another anime that I almost put in the list, honestly, it's straight up, and this anime is massive, right? And that is Mushoku Tensei, even though it cost me much money, yeah. Mushoku Tensei is, I think it's the best new isekai in years, right? You know, I was super happy with the anime. Episode 2 I think was amazing, and I watched all episodes on Twitch, unfortunately, but you know what I mean. But yeah, Mushoku Tensei I think is like arguably the best anime this year, probably, yeah. Like Mushoku Tensei, it's just a lot of people hate it because of its etchy stuff and so on, right? But I think Mushoku Tensei, but actually that stuff I think is good in the sense that it makes the character more believable. I think that's great. But regardless, what I really like in Mushoku Tensei is that Rudos, the main character, he is actually carrying over all his issues, right? He's a grown man with all his mental issues, and he's still there, right? I feel too many isekais are very, in my opinion, you know, very trash, right? And I mean bad way trash, because it's like, well, this is just self-insert, you know, tabula rasa, blank slate character, right? And I hate that. There are some, of course, good isekais that are blank slate, but usually I prefer, of course, the character has some personality and actually utilizing being, you know, like a grown man in a boy's body, whatever, right? It has all the skills and knowledge or whatever. And Konosuba, I mean, obviously, Kazuma is like a douchebag from Earth, right? He's not a self-insert character. He's a douche, right? You're following the bad guy, kind of, right? And I think that immediately for me is like, okay, he's a much better isekai than most other isekais, where they're kind of like no personality main characters, right? And just general comedy of Konosuba, that I feel like, oh yeah, he's a guy, he has the worst healer ever, the worst mage ever, and the worst tank ever. Oh yeah, he's great, man. This guy's playing on hardcore. I love it. But so much good stuff in Konosuba. And then generally, you know, it doesn't have any breaks, right? Like, for example, the Sylvia joke. Oh, it's a foot narrow male joke. Oh, because something is poking at you. I'm like, oh man, this is Konosuba's best scene ever, Konosuba. When the Futanari gets him, yeah. And it's like, oh, my little Katsuma-chan. Yeah, no, but yeah, I think there's one thing that the author does generally with also Kemi no Mitsu, right? And of course, competence of this patch as well this season, is that he has no breaks. It's like anything goes. And I like that the comedy. For me, comedy should be, you know, just do whatever you want. Right? Yeah, I feel you can joke about everything. Right? But what I always say, people, is that you can joke about everything. Just make sure it's funny. That's what I always say to people. Yeah, you should never be afraid to make the joke you want to make, right? I'm a obviously very libertarian person. I just like any kind of joke. The real main thing is that a joke has to be funny, right? That's my main thing. If the joke isn't funny, don't say it, right? But if it's funny, yeah, go for it. So that's kind of concept for me. I think it really is, again, the best comedy ever, hands down. I don't think any of the anime is even close. It probably is Kaguya-sama for me, which is the second funniest anime. But I still think it's like leaps after Konosuba, honestly. And there's more than many good comedy animes. Like last year, for example, Little Princess. That anime was ridiculously funny, I felt. That's a really good funny comedy anime. And, there's a lot of different good comedy animes. Nagatoro, of course, this is, I think, is a masterpiece. Nagatoro is generally, I think, a talented anime. Usaki-chan. No, Usaki-chan is like a worse, yeah. Nagatoro is like a better Usaki, and I like Usaki too, so. But Nagatoro, seriously, for me, is like by far the funniest anime this year, absolutely. I always say it's a talented episode, but I really do think Nagatoro is, I mean, I'm laughing at it, like 20 minutes straight, right? I think it really is a funny, hilariously funny anime. And but I do like this anime. Another anime that I actually really enjoy, that I did react to, is the one back in the days. This is when I started my channel, actually, yeah. Was of course Suredure Children. I think the anime has some amazing comedy scenes. It doesn't feel like it's a very popular anime, of course it aired many years ago now. Used when I started my channel. That was one of the first animes I ever reacted to, actually. Yeah, Suredure Children. But I think it's really fun too. But it has a lot of these weird jokes where my favorite scene is when there's a guy that is like always doing this like comedy sketch with his like best friend. There's a girl. And they're doing like this kind of kansai jokes and so on, right? And he's kind of he wants to date her, right? He wants to smash her. It's like he's always like, oh man, I want to date her. She's really beautiful. I'm in love with her, but he can never really get on it, right? And and she thinks they are together. And that's like the funniest thing ever. I think it's so good. It's the anime. It's so good. That's one of my absolute favorite animes in my life because she thinks they are dating and she's kind of confused. Why he's never kissing her? Why he's never doing anything with her? Because they're always hanging out for like a year, and she's like, "I'm always with you. Why don't you ever try to kiss me? I'm your girlfriend." And he's like, "You're my girlfriend?" And it is so good because then she's like, "Yeah, I asked you out." And he's like, "But wasn't that one of our like sketchy jokes?" He's like, "I was serious." And that scene is like the best thing ever. It's like one of my favorite animes of all time. It is so purely fun. She's like, "What? I'm your boyfriend? I wanted to be your boyfriend, but I never knew I was your boyfriend." Oh, it's so beautiful, that anime. That is generally one of my favorite comedy animes too. Basically, it's like 20 different couples. And it's a very short anime. It's like every episode is like 3-4 couples that have some weird different actions, right? And also I think very popular is the Yandere Sundere Motor is trying to ruin her brother's dating life. That one is hilarious. But there's a lot of good characters in that anime. But that anime seriously is up there in my definitely my probably top 5 comedy animes. Like it's just so funny. It's very short though. It's very short and the manga isn't that much longer, but it's pretty amazing. Anyway, let's go on. That's comedy animes. Now of course we have let's go up to a nice romantic anime in this list here. Yeah, let's talk about Kimi ni Todoke. Reaching you, right? Man, this is a beautiful anime. This is an anime about a bullied girl falling in love, getting friends and so on. So Fruit Basket's airing right now. It's a really good anime. I was thinking almost a little bit Fruit Basket. It's currently the most popular, I think, shoujo anime right on my anime list. So very popular shoujo animes. But my OG, top shoujo anime, the romance in me, the anime I cried a lot now, but it really is crying anime in me. It's Kimi ni Todoke. So it's just like how do I say it? I don't want to spoil too much, but it's about a girl that looks like the Ring girl, and she's like, I'm a Sawako, not Sadako. Yeah, the whole thing like that. And she has no friends, and obviously has no boyfriend, right? And she's all bullied. So it's about a girl that has like no friends, everyone bullies her, right? She has absolutely no one. But she's like the nicest, most wholesome girl ever, right? She's actually quite beautiful, but no one can see it because she looks like the Ring character. And she's just like afraid, I don't know, like she's not an introvert, but obviously she's bullied and so on. She has no friends, but she's so nice to everyone, and no one ever talks to her. So it's like a really horrible, it's like a really horrible start of the anime. And then of course she gets friends and gets a boyfriend and so on. And she's in love with the hot guy in the class because he's nice to her. He's a very nice guy. He's charismatic and popular, but also very nice to her, right? That's the only person being nice to her, basically. So she's like, oh, I kind of like him. And there's like a huge, of course, how say it, social hierarchy, right? Like she wants to date the hottest guy, you know what I mean? And he likes her back though, so don't get me wrong, right? But it's like that's kind of the dynamic in the beginning. And then she gets her friends, her gyro friend, basically. Yeah, basically she befriends the Yankee and the gyro, right? She befriends the bad boys. No, but kind of like that, right? She befriends the bad girls and the bad boy, basically, because they had only friends, and she's gonna grow her friend circle and so on. This is an amazing, it's a really amazing anime. It's just beautiful. It's all super romantic. It has so many good scenes, man. It's just it's a beautiful anime in every way, right? But I think it's like the best, in my opinion. Yeah, it's like the best romance out there. I've seen a lot of shoujo because obviously I am, you know, a girl at heart, right? But I've seen a lot of shoujo, but I think it's probably my favorite. Another show that I do like is Wolf and the Black the Wolf girl, yeah, but the girl like that is trying to like force date a guy and he's all mean to her, but she's like, I want him anyway. Man, that anime is good, man. And so on. Fruit Basket is probably my number 2. Newest, as I mentioned earlier. But I mean, I am doing the Fruit Basket review every week, so that's pretty obvious, I guess. I mean, yeah, certainly also Utena, Revolutionary Girl Utena. But that anime is kind of weird. That showed you anime. It's a lot of Yuri in it. It's very Yuri. It's very girl, but it's also a lot of fighting. That anime is kind of weird. That anime is like seinen. That anime is like, is that seinen shoujo fighting? I don't know. It's like Yuri. It's a weird anime. If you've seen it, Revolutionary Girl Utena. It's a very weird anime. I don't know how to explain it. And I love how it's like, it has all these like weird undertones, right? Where like she's gonna fight her enemies, and then her girlfriend has to like transform into her weapon and make her dress and so on. It's like it's all this weird thing when they're gonna fight. They have to like fusion dance, and it's more like, oh yeah, and it's like they turn into weapons and she's touching her body. It's like it's weird anime. It's basically like an extra scene every time they're gonna fight, and they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this thing now, best friend. And it's like, I am your servant, master. It's kind of weird dynamic. The anime is so strange, man. Is that anime Yuri? That's my question more. Is that even a Yuri anime? I would say one thing about Utena though. I always love that insert song. The the kind of similar to Sephiroth insert song. When I was working at the game company a few years ago, and I really kind of hated working there for many reasons, but I was like, I want to focus. I want to just silence everyone around me. I was like, I'm putting on the Utena insert song, fighting song. I was like, kind of like, you kind of lose out on everything else. Right? Anyway. Where are we? We've got 2-1 left. Let's take the biggest one. It's the obvious one then. We talk about One Piece. Obviously I was ready for the yeah. So One Piece is an anime about pirates or something. I don't know. It's like it's not that famous, right? Yeah, One Piece. I took One Piece because I bought this statue of Red Yu. It cost like $100, so I had to like I had to like motivate myself. Like, wait, why did I buy the Red Yu for? Why did I do it? I also have, it's actually like a gift of my mom though, but I have the Burai, I have like several Vivi, because Vivi is my OG best girl, right? And for Yamato. So I have several Vivi. I have pudding over there, okay? If you have a pudding figure, then you know you are, yeah, I'm gonna give a pudding figure. Still in the box though, but it is in the box. No, actually, yeah, here we go. Vivi pudding box. Unopened box though, it's a DV one. But if you even have like a pudding figure, right? Yeah, you have a pudding figure of One Piece. So I have to put One Piece to motivate why I buy pudding figures, because pudding is like, man, she's a pudding, but I was like, wait a minute. And then I have a lot of VV ones. This is the box of whatever I opened up. VV in bed interest, when I married her, yeah, and so on. But One Piece, obviously the most popular anime ever, so it's the most basic thing to have in your list, right? But it's just the best shonen, right? It is to some extent. I feel a cheat to have One Piece there because it is the manga. I mean, it truly is the manga that's in the list here. In that sense, it's not really the anime. The anime is great, though, so I'm coming to that, right? But I mean, it truly is the manga, right? That makes me super hyped. It's my favorite manga of all time, and so on, right? That of Berserk, and like even if you have read the manga, every week, like of course obviously now with Yamato, but every week I'm like, oh man, this is the fight to the first Kaido, and are you big mom and shit? Like, I mean, every time I'm freaking hype, right? One Piece for me is one of the animes. I don't care if I read the manga. Every time I see like, yes, the shit is happening. You know what I mean? That being said, though, I am obviously biased from the manga. I think it's fair to say because I mean, One Piece is like my favorite, story of all time. My best story ever. You know what I mean? Best fiction ever. But obviously the anime is slow paced and so on. So like having it on the list is like physically cheating. Obviously Dolphy, best character. I can talk about One Piece obviously for hundreds of hours. I don't feel I have to go into One Piece too much here, because I mean you all know what I feel anyone watching this thing, you know what One Piece is. It's the most famous shonen anime. It's 20 plus years. I've been reading it for 20 years, right? I have all the manga. I watched every episode. I've seen all the movies. I have an absurd collection of figures, because who freaking buys a pudding figure? It was very cheap though. That's my defense. Pudding is a cheap woman, it was very cheap actually. I got it for like $10 or something. So that honestly, the red here is very expensive. Obviously, it's like four times bigger too. But when I found the pudding one, I was like, oh man, it's like on sale. Okay, it's like $10. Okay, whatever. I'm getting a pudding. I might as well have every female character. I was like, okay, I can get a pudding then. I was like, whatever. But yeah, I don't feel I have to go into too much One Piece, right? I'll do a review every week, manga and anime. It's just the world building, all the characters, all the emotions, all the good fights, right? I think one thing One Piece does really well, though, still to this day, is that it might have some power creep. I think One Piece with Oda doing the whole Devil Fruits is just way better than most other shows and stuff, because the power scale in One Piece, why it's deep with Kaido and Big Mom on the Yonkos, is that's getting kind of crazy. But even with that, One Piece has all of this, I think. Oh, well, I have this power against his power, and you kind of have this kind of countering. Oh, you have your power of summoning, or I have power of this thing, right? Or you can turn into water. Well, I can turn into salt. Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, they have the kind of stuff going for it. I think that really helps One Piece a lot. Where I think a lot of other shonen anime is kind of like, you have your massive power, and I have my massive power. Especially like Dragon Ball, which is kind of like, oh, I just level up my ki more than your ki. You know what I mean? Like, they don't really have any special powers in Dragon Ball. They just fight, right? And then this becomes more and more obsolete. Characters like Yamcha, right? Best boy Yamcha and so on. But it really, Krillin, the strongest human ever. Yeah, like Dragon Ball has the issue where it's like most of the characters are kind of like, dead weight after a while, right? Like almost all of them. Where in One Piece, it still is believable that Nami can fight and so on, because there's a lot of matchup and so on, right? Which all the anime does a similar thing, but I still think that One Piece with Oda, that's the best one, because it has more creative powers. Like, even though I really love the Clover, man of the powers are still, most of them are somewhat straightforward, right? Oh, I have fireballs, I have water attacks, you know what I mean? They all have trap magic and absorb magic, they have quantum magic, so they have other magic too, but I think for a lot of characters, this is like kind of straightforward, where in One Piece, a lot of powers are just kind of wacky, One Piece is more wacky. Yeah. It's like, oh, it's like a whimsical powers. Yeah, they're like, oh, I can turn into this shit. Yeah, oh, I can summon in my One Piece is like, I have the power of the jacket fruit, So I think Oda really did it well, because and not, this is a weird comment, but kinda in this way though, because coming up with a character as the jacket fruit, in one way, it's not that creative. It's just kind of crazy, you know what I mean? It's kind of wacky doodle, yeah. I think honestly, some of the Oda has are just kind of, they're not overly, I guess, creative, because they're just kind of crazy, and everyone could kind of say it, I guess. So, arguably, I think his brilliance is then having that system where he can establish in the world building, oh, you can have the jacket fruit. It makes sense in this world building. And as you read or watch the anime, you get to the jacket fruit, you're like, oh, well, it's One Piece, of course someone has the jacket fruit, you just kind of accept it. So I think that's One Piece, the strongest skill when it comes to the fight and the powers, from like a shonen comparison, right? That you really have like, well, yeah, of course someone can have the string fruit, because, it's One Piece, right? And then someone can have like the painting fruit and turn people into paintings, because why not, right? The only thing I feel he disappointed me, I'm gonna be really critical here, is we come talking about the Flamingo, so is Mac-wise. Like, why does they have 2 weight powers for Ruda? That's just lame. Yeah, so, I mean, the only time talking about deer fruits, the worst deer fruit in my opinion is Mac-wise. I mean, or actually, Miss Oda one is the worst, but So basically, right, you have first you have one character, she has the kilo fruit, right? She can turn up her weight in kilo. And then Macwise appears later in Dressrosa, spoilers, whatever, yeah. And he has the ton fruit, and you can like, it's the same thing, but he can just do it faster. It's just like, he has the same ability. He can't fly though, because he can't turn into like less than 1 kilo. She can be like 1 kilo, or he can be like 1 ton, something, I don't know. So he can turn on his power basically. He can jump up anyway. He does it anyway. It also, but it is kind of fun that he used to be a muscular guy, and then he's fat, and that is kind of funny. But no, like the other people have like swim fruit and so on. That's badass. And then it's like I have the ton fruit. It's just the same thing as the other person had. The flag fruit. That was a cool one too. Yeah. So that's one thing. One Piece, right? It's awesome. Of course, the world building. I touched on that. Great, right? We have all the different island settings, the backstory. Is amazing in one way. He still hasn't explained the Void Century and hasn't really explained the Celestial Dragon and so on. So Oda, he's still in the D and so on. Yeah, he's still waiting for all these reveals. That's impressive too. One way I will say that a bit with One Piece that I critique against that he maybe should start revealing some stuff eventually. Yo boy, maybe so on. Yeah, maybe he should stop. Maybe eventually. Maybe now it's 20 years Oda. But yeah, the world building is there, right? All the characters, of course, are amazing. He just spent ridiculous amount of time, right, on his, character build-ups and so on. But one other thing, as he lasted One Piece, obviously I can talk about One Piece forever, so I've done it many times before, is the backstories, right? One Piece, I feel, by far established a sad, long backstory in manga, right? But it really did. We see it in many other mangas today, but One Piece is clearly the OG manga and anime, where it's like, let's have a 10-episode backstory of Law. Or Oden? You like Oden? 10 episodes of Oden? This Luffy guy, he had like 3-4 episodes. Let's give him another 10 or so episode of backstory, right? Yeah. So, and that's one thing you can really say about One Piece, yeah. They have all the characters, they have the red stone. No, but they really have a ridiculous backstory. It really builds up every character in his world. And that's something that is amazing. And it sounds kind of, today, it sounds kind of like, oh, come on, every manga does that. Every manga or anime, shonen anime, builds up the characters in that way. Yeah, because One Piece established it, right? One Piece, Oda was the guy that did in anime and manga and so on. In order, like in Dragon Ball, barely anyone had backstory. In Dragon Ball, that was his fault, you know what I mean? There wasn't like a sad backstory for Tenshin or Yamcha. There's a guy that up here that wanted to see Bulma's Oppies, you know? Yamcha is one that stares at Oppies in the beginning. He's one that gets them Oppies, you know? He was in the first manga volume of Dragon Ball, and Tenchi wanted some revenge, whatever, right, for his the Crane School and so on, yeah, and assassins. There wasn't much backstory to the characters. One Piece was the first one that did that really did it well. And then you have all these other, mangas after One Piece, like the Black Clover or whatever, My Academia and so on, that also does it in a similar way, right? So they all definitely following that One Piece, the One Piece establishment backstory system. But of course at different degrees of success though. But yeah, One Piece is of course an amazing anime, and also very important anime for the whole industry and everything. Truly though, honestly, One Piece, as a side note, last point there, it is of course incredibly important for the whole industry, because that these companies can make so much money on it, right? Then they can of course use their money to support other artists, right, or make other movies and so on. It's kind of like if One Piece really pulls the industry forward, right? And that's also kind of be the list. But no, I think One Piece is the best thing ever, though. The only issue is the pacing of the actual anime. The manga is better, though. The pacing of the anime is the worst. Now then, lastly, the final anime that I'm sitting here now, about an hour, right, talking about this, my 9X read my ultimate shirt. I have a few different anime shirts, right? And this is of course the best shirt. Let me show me the shirt, guys. Oh yeah, look at that, look at my cream shirt. Look at that Futuna Rain, look at that Angel U shirt. Oh, It's almost as good as the Uni one I designed myself, yes. Look at that shirt, baby. Oh, cream! So, of course, the last anime on my list, and it is absolutely a trash anime taste. No, it's a pretty amazing anime! It's a genius anime, and of course I am dead serious. And that is Interspecies Reviewers. That anime is a masterpiece. You can't tell me otherwise. We all have these ecchi animes, right? We have the ecchi animes, we have the Pity the Reels, and we have the harem quintuplets, we have the love animes, right? When you walk into the girls in the shower, so right? We have the Kedyo, so you fuck with your butt, and so we have all those animes, right? We have all these ecchi animes and the girls, they have the oppas bouncing around and so on, right? We have all those animes. The many animes that are kind of like that. They're all, ecchi, and they have oppas and ass and so on, right? And most of them are harem, most of the girls and so on. And then here comes, in the specific reviewers, there's an anime about it's like, okay, how is it to smash a Ken Town? I always wondered that, yeah. It is a masterpiece anime. The whole anime is about, okay, we're gonna go to this, brothel and be like, oh yeah, I heard they have some really nice fairies here, yeah, some elves. It's just, it's so funny, the anime. It's so ridiculous. And everything is so over the top, right? They're always like, oh yeah, okay, we can go to the fairy girl. She's like, oh, I have to measure your pee-pee because, we fairies are kind of tiny, right? We're gonna measure it so you can be with the fairy. Oh, you get the fat fairy. Oh, you're too big. You get the fat, ugly fairy over there. Yeah, she don't want to handle you. Like, fairies, right? So, but this is like, and they have so many good parts of the anime because the thing, I really mean it. I really mean how much I love in-space reviewers, right? Because they're taking so many parts of like an ecchi kind of sexy jokes, right? And they're really taking it to our next level. Now it's been in the actual etchiness and the borderline hen storyline, but more in the sense that, like for example, then, so spoilers. I'm gonna spoil to you. I'm gonna spoil. The very important storyline. In one episode, they go to a salamander chick, right? And she's very hot, right? And I mean, she's hot because she's a salamander. Right? She's hot. Her body is like, fire, right? And then she's like, yeah, put the meat in my body, right? So then they're like putting, they put like Kobe beef on her, right? They're like, yeah, Kobe beef on the salamander oppies. And then they want to eat the meat, they pick up the meat because she can like, but she's like a living, living fire, right? Yeah, you can like burn, they can crisp up the food for them, right? And then they're eating this food, and then the anime is like showing the food shaped as her, oppai and so on. Yeah, and of course, yeah, it's just amazing. It's just amazing. They're like, how can we, not animate her body, but still show her body? Oh, I know. So that's what I really love with the anime. Because they're taking everything to the extreme, and they're always like, okay, how can we, make this thing not be a hen, but still basically be a hen? How can we like take it around another level around it? How can we like get it in there? How can we kind of, sneak past and get that stuff past the, the family-friendly border? Yeah, it's really interesting. So I really respected anime because they're taking everything in the hen ecchi kind of comedy, and they're always like, how can we make it happen? How can we like circumvent the issues, right? It's just hilarious. So that's a fantastic anime. And other stuff, I mean, I love, of course, the creepy stuff with Futanari. Gotta respect that. Huge angel futa, gotta respect the main character being a futa. And the general, and I really love the joke with Cream. That everyone's always like, oh yeah, Cream is big. The best ongoing joke ever. Every girl's like, oh, heard about that angel girl? Angels, right? Angel used is amazing. And they have on the joke. The best, I would say though, the best person ever reviewed though, that's the Mr. Music woman, the witch woman. That woman is so good, man. They have this witch, right? And she's basically like the Rick and Morty Mr. Music, right? You press her oppai, and then you smack her oppai, or and she kind of triggers for you. And you're like, oh, what do you want me to do, master? And you kind of, she's like the perfect girlfriend. And I like how they review it because Cream is like, she will give you the girlfriend experience. The girlfriend experience? And that's a kind of uncommon thing to have versus the other woman in the anime. But the best part of that is that the elf guy, right? Spoilers. He's like, so I can pay for her to do whatever I want. He said, yeah, it's like Mr. Music, witch. He's like, okay, good. She's a witch. I want to learn magic. So he's like hires her, right, to be his magic teacher. I just love it so much. That's why I thought that it's fun in anime because they're always trying to, how can we make this the sexiest anime ever, right? And then we have a main character who's like, actually, I rather have her as my tutor in magic because it's really expensive to rent like an actual magical sensei, right? But if I rent this woman that does anything for me, right, for money, then I can pay her, of course, to do like teaching me magic, right? So that kind of stuff I think is so hilarious in anime. They're always trying to like work around, how would you actually be in this world? Like, oh yeah, she has no limit for money. Okay, then I want to have her teach me magic. It's like it's fantastic. But no, it's an anime then about every episode that they meet a new monster girl, right? And Monster Girl, as I mentioned Tenchi Muyo, right? Monster Girl are better than normal girls, right? Kentaos, you know, harpies, ubunits, everything is way better. And then of course I have to review it. And I think a lot of the comedy too is that the author is really like, well, what would happen if a halfling smashes an Unichan, right? And it's like, well, she's really big, so I couldn't really fit, you know, yeah, I could barely feel anything. Like, I love that, because they're always trying to review it, and then Krim is like, oh, they are so thirsty, they were way too much for me, so that wasn't that fun, right? And I love it, but the octopus, they're all over the place, it's just annoying, yeah, so... And so have the grade them, right? They have the succubus, you know, like the demon chicks. They're like, oh, they're way too thirsty. They're just painful. Yeah, like, that wasn't fun at all. You get into the demon girl, they're like, you're like, that was not even good. And then the other person's like, oh, it was great. I love that, you know. And you have stuff when you go to the undead, right? Like the kobold wolf guy is like, oh man, I could smash a skeleton and I could like chew in their bones. That was awesome. Like, I could do that shit. So I think that's really good in the anime too. Like every episode, you have the two main characters, right? And they bring on like another friend, the halfling or the werewolf, kind of kobold guy, so on, right? And you know, they go and do the stuff, right? And then you have the weird stuff that you go to like, the aquarium and go make like the penguin and so on. Oh man, the anime is there's no limits, man. There's no limits. An amazing anime, and I'm happy to see that the author is coming back with the new anime this season. There's like a battle shonen anime where they have monster girls fighting. I'm like, oh shit, man! It's probably etchy! So, with Mappa is doing it too. It's gonna be badass, man. But anyway, yeah, back to the list, guys. Back to the list. An hour now, perfect, yeah. I feel almost perfect. Went through the list in an hour. I could have spent 3 more hours on One Piece alone, right? But yeah, that's my list, right? Kadi, do it quickly again then. Kadi, of course, being in the middle, right? That's like always my go-to anime. I get the question a lot when I stream, no matter what I stream for anime, right? No matter what I stream, or if I see my game on Twitch or whatever, I always get this question basically, what's your favorite anime, right? That's like the most, that is probably the most common question I get. What's your favorite anime? And then what I always tell people is Kadi, right? Kadi is my favorite anime, that's my number one all the way around, right? Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, it also has a psychological thing, but it also does it in a very simple way, right? Kadi takes the very simplistic way of like playing Janken, rock, paper, scissors, and making it be like, Sava! If I play this thing now, he's gonna kill me, right? And so on. So I think that's amazing, Kadi. It's amazing. It's Kadi, One Out, my favorite sport anime, which is basically cheating because it also is basically another Kadi. Now, it's similar to Kadi, but what I like more with One Out is that the main character is a freaking bad guy, you know. He's a nice guy, kind of deep down, but he does a lot of bad stuff and he cheats and so on. And I really like the following basically the bad person, you know, basically cheating his way in baseball. I really enjoyed it. Similar to Kadi also does cheat sometimes. But it's kind of like, I guess the difference there is also that in Toki Michi in One House is very competent. They're all kind of similar, but Kadi said, you know, the loser is just trying to survive. Sava, trying to survive, right? Ultimate surviving. Whereas One House, he's actually the genius, master manipulator. He always just crushes everyone. So it's actually a very different take on a very, I guess, on a similar thing, where they're both trying to game a system, right, in the most efficient way. Kali is doing it as an underdog, trying to figure out how to win, and the other guy is like, here's my master plan, right? So they're different, yeah, they're kind of coming from the top dog or the bottom dog, right? So that is actually why they're kind of different, even though they are kind of the same genre, in a way though. Of course, it has some more baseball things too as well. And otherwise, I say Ashi is my favorite sport anime, right? With also then again a similar, you know, one of the bad guys, Hiruma, of course. Obviously, I mentioned earlier, Golden Kamui. It's like the freaking mixture of everything. As a drama, bad guys. The comedy was really weird, intense. The traitors, the thrill, right? Golden Kamui for me is like, you know, an insanely talented anime where everything just happens, right? And you never know. I just said earlier, but one thing with Golden Kamui, and I talked about it with my colleague I had a few years ago, but I got him to watch Golden Kamui when it was airing, and he was like, it's the best thing ever. And we used to discuss every episode at work the next day, and at lunch then, and we kind of have the same, I've had this conclusion that why it's so good, and that's because every episode is so high-paced, but it's not high-paced that you can't follow it, you know? Like, it actually feels like, oh, something happening, this guy did, this guy did. It's like, bam, 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 that's kind of like Golden Kamui. It feels incredibly like, doof, 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 like it has no breaks, anime, it has no breaks. But anyway, you still manage to follow everything perfectly, right? It's not like a Tokyo where it's like, oh, it's 40 characters, there's too much shit happening at the same time, and it is too high paced, nothing makes any sense. In Golden Kamuy, everything just perfectly makes sense, even though I think in one way it's one of the highest paced animes ever, but it's constantly delivering in some weird way. But so that's very interesting in Golden Kamuy, because I think it managed to fit like the super high paced anime, even though I never felt that I missed out on anything. Where otherwise, too high, fast anime. Another anime is Karakuri Circus, which I kind of like, but it has some issue where they kind of skip over chapters, they kind of jump to the next island, the kind of country, and you're like, how did I get here? Like, it's too high paced, right? Golden Kamuy managed to perfectly fit it in somehow. I don't know how I do it, but I think it's a masterpiece, right? Other animes I talked about earlier, Grand Teacher Ritsuko, right? The original Aofield, ecchi main character, right? The OG guy is like, I'm gonna get some teeth and meals, baby! You know? Oh, and some students too! Yeah, like that guy. He's like, oh man, my teeth is hot, my teeth is hot, yeah. Like, he's the original bad boy. Yankee, right? I love Yankees. He's I think he's also gonna be the first big Yankee character, right, in manga and anime. And yeah, like he's the first really kind of scheming bad boy, right? Similar to Kazuma in similar to Kazuma, right? In Konosuba, as the scheming, main character, and this guy also was a schemer, right? So see, I like bad boys. I like bad characters. So yeah, Konosuba, what I mentioned earlier, best comedy ever, right? Best isekai ever. In my opinion, especially then, it's the best comedy, right? And I think it's so well written with all the jokes so on, and the world building, the crazy characters so on. Let's go on. One Piece, mentioned in the end, obviously biggest show than ever, the best world building, best backstories, right? So many cats, right? So many episodes, but it truly is a masterpiece. The anime, though, I will say it's lower by its pacing, though. As I put it here because I feel it's the most iconic anime I've ever seen, and I watched it for all years, right? So, but I think the manga, though, is what makes it up, though. It is like, if I haven't read the manga, I would like it less because the anime has the pacing issue. As I mentioned earlier, Kimi Todoke, my favorite shoujo anime, right? An anime about a sad girl with no friends, kind of very wholesome, right? Getting friends and boyfriend and so on, right? Nicest girl ever, very nice. Tenchi Muyo, of course, the harem OG anime, right? Brings in the different characters, the alien girl, the monster girl, brings in that kind of ideas, right? The tropes, and that what we today say are trope and cliche, right? Are all started in Tenchi Muyo, with him having like 6-5 waifus. One is his like half sister, one is his mom, kinda, one his like sister, one his aunt, and the two of the other ones are mom and daughter, and then there's like two sisters, and all that shit too, it had that stuff. They were aliens, they had weird fights, and they had some gender bend, like one of the bad guys becomes a woman, they're in love with him, they had the gender bend stuff, they had the girl that turned Ryoko is also a spaceship and a waifu. And it has all that crazy stuff that we see in animes today all the time, right? That all called Tenchi Muyo, right? Where he's like, I had this stuff, and he has like 8 wives, and in the spin-off, the guy has like 11 wives, and this is all over the place, I mean, this is like, yes, this is harem anime. It's the OG harem anime. It's also important. And then last, of course, in Speech Reviewers, the greatest anime ever. It took every ecchi point and put it to its limit, right? It took every borderline hand stuff and was like, oh, we're gonna get over that border, yeah. It took everything to its limit when it comes to borderline hand stuff. Like I mentioned earlier, I think the salamander scene is the best scene. In that they're like, oh yeah, we can burn on her up eyes and then look at the meat and be like, oh, we can show the meat, right? Not her body, yeah. We can show like the whatever. This is, oh man, this is perfect. It's so perfect, and it takes everything to its maximum conclusion, right? And I'm excited to see his new anime coming. But that's about 3x. I can't think of doing another 3x when I ask people to send me your 3x, and I'm like, oh, it's the worst thing ever. I'll be like, it's bad, man. But something similar. I want to do something. One thing I might do, this on my channel is a game one. Interesting to me too. I kind of, I love to do opening reviews, so I'm definitely gonna do an opening one. It's gonna be interesting. 3x3 opening might be the next video in this kind of pattern, because I do really love, doing opening reviews. So that can be interesting to talk about. What are the 9 best openings? And of course, when I say openings, I always think about both visual and audio. Right? I hate when people are like, "Oh, this is the best opening season." I like, but the visual is horrible. Oh, but it's the best song. But that's not the best opening. It's the best song, then. Right? You know what I mean? when I talk opening or ending, of course, I'm always thinking about the visual too. The story is telling. Like I like openings that are so much minor spoiler, right? Telling you a story, what's gonna happen. Here's the bad guy. You know, I like that. Kind of like a foreshadowing, so right? I want the opening to have that, right? Or just be crazy, I guess, like all whimsical, but there's to be something happening there, right? And have a good song and so on. Right? So that one is I definitely want to do, and so on. And I think I'm gonna also do like a. I mean, soon we have the end here of this season. So I think I'm gonna rank the season also, for that matter, if I have time and so on. Otherwise, of course, Skype and so on coming next season. Of course, have a lot of new animes. Obviously, as I say over the time, Baccarina is my number one, and then it's Slime, right? And also probably Interspecies View is also a new anime. Then we have more, bunch of mostly isekais next season. So I'm a little bit like, maybe I'll probably do more of these kind of, I think, on daily. We have to see, but for me it's like if I don't have that many shows that I like, right, I'm more doing pretty stuff. I don't know, but it's like, man, there is a lot of isekais. Some of them sound good, but it's also like not that good. And then there's not that many other animes I feel super sad about, except of course sequels like My Academia, Slime, Baccarina, right, so on. Animes are coming back again, but on the new animes, I don't know, Sonny Boy perhaps. It's like some kind of battle royale stuff. I don't know. I talked about that in my last, stream, discussing the new animes coming, right. And also for the last thing, I am gonna watch. It's out already. I'm gonna watch, of course, the record of Adam and so on. I've seen some gifs already. I heard it's pretty bad, but I'm gonna watch that probably this weekend. Just binge it on Netflix and see. And do a review, right? And review it and make fun of her big oppa. I've seen the oppa gifs. Like, yeah, it's good anime. Here's some etchy anime.